All right, I wanted to make a quick video because as I was running yesterday, this kind of thought popped in my head that maybe Apple's about to buy some Snapchat. I don't know. Seems like a good opportunity. So let me kind of explain my thinking here. I see a lot of commentary around the metaverse, right? And it's pretty exciting, right? This new internet 3.0, 4.0, whatever you want to call it. I've thought about this for a while, and it's really spawned from a book I read many years ago called Physics of the Future by Michio Kaku. I definitely recommend you read this book if you're interested in any of this, kind of metaverse stuff, because it'll really help frame your thinking around, what this could actually look like. Because, everyone who's focused on Facebook and Oculus and going into a full VR world. Like I see all these YouTube videos of people kind of floating around in this VR world. And, my son actually has an Oculus and I've used it quite frequently, and it's awesome. It's really cool. But, truthfully, the novelty of it does kind of wear off after a while. And the use cases, especially in its current form, are kind of limited. But let's just think for a second that we change the form factor and the kind of user experience of what that is, from virtual reality to augmented reality, where let's say you have glasses like the ones I'm wearing here, and instead of being fully immersed in this pure virtual world, you are partially immersed into a digital world. So, think about it today, right? You've got a smartphone, you're sitting here, you're immersed in that digital world when you're scrolling through Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, etc. However, imagine that controlling your entire periphery, right? You can still see, aspects of the digital space. So let's think of some use cases here. One that I really liked from that book was a fighter pilot, right? So imagine a fighter pilot's got this headset on, and what they do, what this use case would be is, he'd have cameras installed on the jet, right? So he would be able to completely remove the cockpit, any visual barriers. So he's kind of flying through the air, and that gives him an advantage over his competition in a dogfight. So that's one interesting use case. But really, there's a lot of also industrial use cases. So you actually see companies now that have industrial use cases. Zebra Technologies, Realware. I work in the kind of distribution tech space, so I get to interface with some of these guys, and it's really interesting. The tech and use cases that are in the marketplace and exist today for augmented reality solutions. And again, we are at the very, very beginning of this. So over, I think, probably the next 10 years, we're going to see this explosion into this augmented reality space, right? Especially as, computational ability has increased. Let's take, for example, Snapchat, right? If you've ever used Snapchat, you can put on one of these filters and it completely changes how you look, and it's instant, it's live, it's real time, and it's kind of hard to think about just a few years ago, something being able to do that, right? So let's just take this a few years out, maybe 2, 3, maybe the technology already exists and they're refining it. I honestly don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I do know it's coming. And it's going to get miniaturized further and further till it's eventually a contact, right? You don't even need the glasses. Maybe there's a camera that's, like just micro that's somewhere, around that you kind of put on your face. Who knows, right? Maybe they build a cap eventually that's got a wireless interface that, your brain just connects with this stuff, and there's no need for a physical or, vocal cue to interface with these devices. I mean, it's about to get nutty. But, in a real world case over the next few years, let's think about, the economics of, the potential economics of what we could see here, right? So, one way that I could really see this playing out is Apple coming to market with their Apple glasses that, you hear a lot of talk about. Apple hasn't discussed it. They've got some patents in place. And their philosophy, I think, could really drive the biggest user adoption because if you go back to Steve Jobs, he says the technology has to get out of the way, and that's truly one reason they win today, and one reason that they will really excel in this platform because they have that kind of foundational base driving the product creation, right? So it's get the technology out of the way. So again, let's think about a use case here. You're driving down the road. And today, there is this thing called land and real estate, and that is in very limited quantity, right? We can't produce any more land. There's only so much here on Earth. However, once you come into the, new augmented reality economy, we'll say, you're going to have several companies who have their digital overlay over our physical overlay. So let's say you're driving down the road and there's a McDonald's to the right, right? They can't put a billboard up there. There's some regulations, some reasons, but they want to advertise to the people going down the street. What's a good way we could accomplish this? Make some money for them, get some advertisement for users, kind of bypass the physical space. We could put a digital billboard up that would almost look exactly like a physical billboard. There would actually probably be regulations and things put into place eventually, perhaps not up front. Where Apple, they would sell McDonald's rights onto their digital platform. Let's say it's 10% of sales. There's a coupon code linked. I don't know. I mean, the possibilities are really limitless. But, either way, they're going to monetize this digital real estate, so to speak. And they're going to sell it to, let's say, McDonald's, that billboard. And you're going to be driving down the road and there's just these kind of billboards, for example. And this is just one use case that are kind of these ads that pop up, for these businesses, right? You can go into your settings and preferences perhaps and, change how you interact, with this world. But that's one use case. Another is, let's say, I'm in my house and I don't really like the color of these ugly beige walls behind me. I want them to pop, I want a green, blue, whatever. Go ahead and add that filter, right? And instead of paying, $1,000 to change walls, my experience changes for $10 for the filter, right? So that's where you really start to see the economics of this thing take off. And that's, kind of what gets me excited, right? The possibilities here. And then to take it a step further, let's think about, yes, land ownership in the future, right? In this digital space. So there's, a company called Earth2.io, and they are selling digital real estate right now. You can go buy some, right? And so think about if you purchase this real estate today, and this company's basically, I think they're trying to map out, and I'm sure there are probably other companies trying to do the same, right? And so ultimately it's going to come down to who creates the best product, to who wins, who creates the best user experience, who kind of accounts for all the things that we need in that space. So, there's kind of a race for that right now. I guess it's kind of the digital real estate gold rush, if you will. But if you buy land in that today, again, it would be a speculative purchase. But if you bought it along transportation corridors, for example, you could own the billboard real estate in this digital enterprise, right? And then let's say if Apple, snaps this company up, think about your land value in that paradigm, right? You're going to be very wealthy. Another way to think about this, actually, one thing I really want to touch on is, I think Apple's going to buy some Snapchat. I think they're going to snap it up, no pun intended, because Snapchat's on a fire sale. They went from like $70 to $40, and it's at a great discount. And ironically, the discount was created by a user interface change or an operating system change on the Apple platform, right? So, they made it basically where advertisers like Snapchat are having a much harder time monetizing their user base, right? Because it's again the foundational principle of how Apple is operating. They are, they have this kind of they are positioning themselves to win this game is kind of the point I'm trying to make. It's interesting because you think they're already one of the world's largest companies, and man, just thinking about this, the only thing set to stop them from truly being like a behemoth of a company like we've never seen before is government regulation, right? I mean, eventually you have to see the government stepping in. If Apple gets all this right and saying we got to break them up, they're no longer a technology company. They own your digital life, right? And they're already kind of phasing themselves into that. If you have an iPhone, and again, Google doing the same thing, right? Just by a different flip of the coin there. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Snapchat potentially could get purchased by Apple. And again, it's just a thought experiment. And it would make sense, right? They're on discount. They have acquired Snapchat's, it's kind of interesting. Their vision is right on target, but ironically, they've had this huge hiccup with, the main way they make money, right? Through advertising revenue based off of how they interact with the user base using these smartphones. So it would be a pretty good play, I could see, unless Apple has all this technology just ready to rock, right? But, Snapchat's been working on the spectacles. They've been, again, acquiring a lot of very strategic companies that have technology to really capitalize on the coming MetaVerse trends that are going to be in place. So yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you think, right? Is the metaverse going to be something where we've all got Oculus VR headsets and we're hanging out in this virtual reality space? I don't think so. It's kind of weird, I mean, not to say that like that doesn't have benefit, right? I mean, I have certainly put this thing on and really seen the value in experiencing life through someone else's perspective. I think that's the other thing that we're not thinking about is like how this is going to change society. If you think it's kind of, we're going through this adoption curve of loss of transparency, right? And it hurts up front. It really does. And I think that's what you're seeing in society right now. You've seen us being online, in these social media networks for a decade, right? And we're coming to terms with things we're finding out about each other. And over the course of the next 10 years, that's going to rapidly accelerate, right? Think about this. If you've got glasses on that are filming things from your perspective and someone else is able to put a pair of glasses on and view those from your first person perspective, empathy for other people is going to skyrocket. So I think while there will be a loss of privacy, honestly, coming in the coming years, there, as we go into this new digital landscape, there will be a big loss of privacy, and that's going to hurt, But on the flip side of that, I think we all realize that nobody's perfect, everybody's imperfect, we're all very similar, and a lot of good will come from that. I think people will be able to a lot more easily relate to other people, right? And that's going to obviously have benefits for society at large. So obviously there's a big downside here, right? If you think that you are addicted to your iPhone because of the dopamine response that it gives you, do not put on a pair of these glasses. It's going to be that times 10, right? It's going to transport you into a new reality. And every day that you don't have these glasses on, fluttering up your reality and giving you these little sparkles to, give you all these dopamine hits, life's going to feel dull. So that's another thing we're really going to have to think about and be careful because, I mean,